The heartbreaking moment I learned my partner wasn't who they seemed. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. The voice on my doorbell camera used a name I never knew. Mr. Markham, you left the unit unlocked again. A delivery guy joked to my partner while handing off a padded envelope on our porch. Eli tilted his head, half smile, and said, "My bad." The way he says everything he doesn't mean. I watched the clip twice before my hands remembered how to stop shaking. I'm Nora, 45, medical billing specialist. The woman who catches transposed numbers and unbilled services before they turn into letters with consequences. I am careful for a living. Careful people don't like surprises, especially when they arrive wearing your partner's face and someone else's name. We met 3 years ago when Eli consulted for the clinic, fixing our appointment reminder system. He could charm a printer into behaving. He brought me tea without asking my order and smiled like he'd been born on a porch at golden hour. I let myself believe in easy. Now, the camera had taught me a different lesson. Easy can be a mask with good lighting. I paused the video on Eli's face as the delivery guy laughed and called him Markham again. In the reflection on the glass, I saw the thin rectangle of a phone taped under the mailbox lid. Secondary line. Burner? I grew up with a cop for a father. Old habits knock like rain. I put on a sweater and stepped onto the porch. The envelope was from a storage company I didn't recognize, addressed by hand to E. Markham. Our street spelled right. Apartment letter wrong. Not a misprint. A test, maybe. Or a breadcrumb for anyone who knew the route he walked. Inside, my brother Daniel texted, "You heard back from insurance?" I typed, "Later," and set the envelope on the counter like it might explode into truth. My best friend Tasha, patron saint of pattern recognition, texted a meme and then, "You good?" I sent her the clip. A bubble pulsed, disappeared, returned with one line, "Don't ask him yet. Go look for the second phone." I opened the junk drawer where batteries, rubber bands, and secrets go to nap. The junk drawer blinked. Under the duct tape, something buzzed twice and then went silent. The junk drawer didn't actually blink. The tiny screen under a pile of takeout menus did. I lifted a square of duct tape and found a slim prepaid phone the color of wet slate. Missed call, Mason S. Text thread pinned above the rest. Friday as usual. Bring the keys. Eli's main phone lay on the charger like an obedient dog. The second phone pulsed with a different life. Names I didn't recognize, messages with odd spacing, punctuation like it had been typed with gloves on. I took 3 screenshots because I am someone who prints receipts before the world tries to edit them. We met at a potluck in the church hall, both wearing name tags and both pretending we hadn't Googled each other. Eli said he loved that I found money in billing codes, like slip stitches in a hem. I loved that he listened to old jazz while cooking and never burned the garlic. The first time he asked me to trust him, it was about a surprise weekend. The first time he mocked me, it was a joke about my tiny job and its tiny victories, tossed like confetti at the end of a long week. I laughed then. Memory is a poor editor when it wants a happy ending. I searched our junk basket for a lease, found only coupons and a postcard from a storage facility, climate-controlled, first month free. I flipped it. On the back in scrawl, Unit 314 paid, EM. We don't have a storage unit. We have a garage that barely fits a car and the holiday bins. I took a picture and texted Tasha. I'm driving to this address. She replied with 3 road cones and, take photos of everything before you touch it. On the way, the neighborhood app pinged with a lost dog alert. The photo's reflection in a window showed Eli's backpack on a bench outside a co-working space he sometimes used. My stomach went cold. Breadcrumbs were everywhere if you knew the menu. The storage office smelled like coffee and cardboard. Unit number? The clerk asked. 314, I said, voice steady on loaned courage. He checked the screen. Authorized users are E. Markham and M. Sloan. He slid me a courtesy map with a practiced smile. Behind the metal door, paper rustled like a small, frightened animal. I slid the latch and lifted the door, the corrugation humming like a warning. The air inside was cool with a note of lemon cleaner. A rolling bin sat in the center, labeled in block letters, client files. The client files held remodel contracts, deposits taken, start dates missed, and final notices sent from disposable emails. Each folder listed victims who had paid in hope and silence. I photographed the tabs until my phone warned me about storage and irony. A yellow folder marked Nora held a printout of my LinkedIn and a copy of the form I'd signed to add Eli to my health plan as domestic partner. Highlighted, annotated. Leverage, someone wrote in the margin. I sat on the concrete and felt the unit tilt like a boat. He mocked my tiny job, but my job made it easy to impersonate me if you knew where to look. I breathed slow until anger steadied my hands, then photographed everything twice. At the co-working space, the receptionist recognized Eli's photo. He rents Fridays, cash, she said. Clients. She shrugged. Mostly men in caps, sometimes women who looked tired. My prepaid phone buzzed. Still good for Friday? From Mason S. I bagged the phone and noted the time. Outside, an older man squinted at me. You with Markham? He asked. Tell him he owes me for the demo he never showed up for. Back home, I opened Eli's laptop with the password he thought I didn't know. Our anniversary in reverse, arrogance masquerading as romance. The mail app hid a second profile under Other Accounts. Elias Markham, complete with signature block and an LLC EIN registered months after he moved in. Sent mail listed cash-only invoices. Drafts swapped my initials like a shell game. I searched for recordings. A voice memo labeled Friday played Eli's soft voice. We'll start once the transfer clears. Don't worry, I've done this 100 times. A woman's voice, brittle with hope. You won't ghost me, right? He laughed low. Never. I forwarded copies to a fresh cloud, called Tasha, and we archived together, quiet as surgeons. We dragged folders, leases, deposits, a photo of Eli in a garage. Reverse image search pinned the background logo to the storage facility. The timestamp placed him there yesterday at noon. Then Eli walked in early and asked why the house was silent. Eli stood in the doorway, eyes soft as if he'd been practicing concern. Why is it so quiet? He asked, setting down the grocery bag. You okay? I closed the laptop as if it were a window. Long day, I said, placing a dish towel over the second phone like it were a sleeping bird. He came close, kissed my hair, asked if I wanted takeout. My stomach rebelled. Love bombing always smelled like roses and urgency. Maybe later, I said. Then, because I needed a test, I asked, did anyone stop by? He smiled. Just a delivery guy? Wrong address. Wrong name, I thought. Markham, I said lightly, tasting the word. He laughed, a beat too late. You misheard. He pulled out a bottle of wine and 2 glasses like rituals could erase facts. The neighborhood association held a meeting about parking permits. In the hallway, a woman brushed past me and said, Tell your husband he still owes for the deck. Husband. Owes. Deck. I think you have the wrong person, I said. No, she replied. Mr. Markham. She didn't wait for me to correct her. When I returned to the room, Eli was already there, waving at someone across the chairs. A man in a ball cap called, Markham, and Eli's head turned before he caught himself. Back home, he was tender, attentive, full of plans. Let's take a trip, he said. Somewhere with no cell service. I held up my hands. Eli, we need to talk. He pivoted. You seem stressed, he said softly. I can help if you let me. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered on speaker. A man's voice snapped. Where's Elias? He took my deposit and vanished. Eli lunged for the phone. I stepped back. Who is this? I asked. You know who, the man said. Tell him to call before I call the police. At dawn, the doorbell rang. The process server held a thick envelope. For Elias Markham, she said. Eli signed with a flourish I'd never seen, then handed me the papers like a cat laying a bird at the door. They've got the wrong guy, he said. The caption read, Notice of Claim. The plaintiff's name matched the storage unit files. The amount matched a deposit logged in a prepaid card screenshot. I looked up at Eli and watched his face become a mirror of mine. Eli smiled sweetly and asked if I trusted him anymore. We moved to separate bedrooms. I hid my credit cards, changed my online banking, and set transaction alerts on every account. Daniel came by with coffee and the look he saves for bad weather on the radar. What do you have that isn't feelings? He asked. I laid out the map, the second phone, the storage unit, the alias, the process server. He nodded once. Good. Feelings can testify, but documents win. At work, I kept my voice level answering patients who wanted to know why a denial letter said one thing while their doctor said another. Numbers are honest if you insist. Every time pipes in the townhouse ticked, I thought of the storage unit humming to itself. I sent Tasha a list of everything copied and where it lived. Backups of backups, she texted. Also, tiny fireproof safe. Target aisle 12. That night, Eli tried a different tactic. He made my favorite soup and sat across from me like a help desk in a nice shirt. Let's reset, he said. I've been under pressure. Clients are dramatic. I looked at the claim packet. Clients with court filings? He smiled, patient priest gentle. Everything can be resolved if you let me handle it. I wanted to believe him, the way you want a fever to break without medicine. But the medicine was printing, labeling, calling the credit union, asking for the fraud desk by name. Tasha FaceTimed me while I indexed the claims. You need a third party in the room, she said. A bank fraud officer. Or a PI. I exhaled. Investigator Ruiz, I said. The credit union's fraud desk. The next morning I scheduled a meeting and invited Eli, against instinct. Refi consult, I wrote, hands cold. He replied with a thumbs up and a heart. I placed the prepaid phone on the table between us like a chess piece. If there's something I haven't understood, I said, now's the time. Eli twirled the phone and set it down screen up. A text came in from Mason. Friday, back gate, cash on arrival. Eli didn't flinch. Spam, he said. The word hung in the air like steam off dry ice. Then you won't mind if I bring the phone to the bank, I said. He spread his hands. Bring whatever makes you calm. Calm felt like an insult I hadn't earned. I was choosing evidence over comfort, and evidence is a jealous god. The doorbell rang, and Investigator Ruiz arrived with 2 silent witnesses. Investigator Ruiz set his recorder on our table and didn't bother with small talk. Walk me through your artifacts, he said, eyes moving like a scanner. I laid out the prepaid phone, storage postcard, process packet, and screenshots of the E. Markham emails. He compared signature strokes with a mechanic's patience. Your partner alternates pressure on the M like he's writing fast, he said. The notarized lease shows hesitation, someone tracing, not signing. He photographed the IP headers I'd printed and nodded. Good. Metadata wins arguments. While Ruiz called the credit union's fraud desk to reserve a room, I searched the prepaid's voicemail. A woman's message trembled. Eli, Elias, please just refund the deposit. I can't start over. A second message from Mason sounded cheerful and mean. Friday, back gate, cash, and leave the van running. My ribs tightened like a belt. Ruiz's eyebrows ticked. Backgate suggests a place with controlled access, he said. Storage or co-working loading bay. He asked for consent to copy the phone. I signed and watched him image it with a cable and a small gray box that made a happy chirp when it caught another text. I still loved Eli. The truth didn't owe my heart a favor. Love had to sit in the hall while evidence did its work. Ruiz slid a form to me. Temporary financial boundaries, he said. Freeze joint lines, change pins, alert your bank's fraud team. Daniel texted from the next room. Need me there? I typed, not yet, and sent him photos of Ruiz's badge because even good news needs proof in our family. At noon, I drove to the storage facility to triple-check Unit 314, this time alone. I opened the bin labeled client files again and found something I had missed. A manila envelope marked keys, 6 tagged house keys, 2 mailbox keys, and a key fob to a high-rise across town. On the back, in Eli's blocky printing, a list of first names and balances. At the bottom, Nora, 000, hold. The word hold felt colder than any number could. I slipped the envelope into my tote, photographed the shelf placement, and replaced the bin exactly the way I'd found it, like a nurse resetting a room after bad news. Then I heard footsteps and the muted clack of the next bay rolling open. Then the lock clicked behind me, and Eli whispered, "You shouldn't be here." He stood in the doorway with a plastic smile and grocery store tulips, as if a bouquet could staple a life back together. "You followed me?" I asked, stepping between him and the bin. "Coincidence," he said, eyes darting to the rolling cart. "I rent here, remember?" I pointed to the label, Client Files, and let the silence make its argument. He shifted to a softer register. "You're spiraling, Nora. Let's talk like adults." Adults, to Eli, meant forgiving the lie without examining it. Something in me steadied. "Why does the clerk know you as Markham?" I asked. "Why does a man named Mason control your Fridays?" Eli's mouth twitched toward a laugh, then away. "Consulting," he said. You wouldn't understand how deals are made. I thought of patients who tried to manage their diagnosis by renaming it. The cancer didn't care what they called it. It kept its calendar. I left the unit and walked straight to the office. Print authorized users for 314. I asked the clerk with a politeness I save for strangers and emergencies. He glanced at Eli and then at me, trapped between a policy and a person. I can't, he said. Privacy. Ruiz had warned me. Policies fail when people are afraid. I put my phone on the counter and played the voicemail from the woman whose voice shook. The clerk's face changed shape. Give me a minute. He handed me a generic info sheet but slid a sticky note under it. Friday footage, Bay 5, manager. I stepped outside and called Tasha. He cornered you? She asked. Go where there are cameras. The co-working space was 10 minutes away. I parked across the street and watched Eli enter with the tulips and nothing else. A minute later, 2 men in caps followed, one holding a banker's box like a tooth. I walked in and asked the receptionist for a day pass. She looked at the tulips and sighed. He'll be in the conference hallway, she said quietly, tapping a map. End of the corridor. Fridays only. I thanked her and moved toward the sound of low voices. The corridor smelled like toner and ambition. A door stood slightly open, and I could see Eli's shoes and the edge of a banker's box. A man laughed about soft targets. I lifted my phone, screen black, camera recording with the confidence of a liar who finally tells the truth. The receptionist mouthed sorry as 2 men closed the corridor doors. When opportunity's close, process opens. I pivoted, called Ruiz, and kept my voice calm. He's in conference 4 with 2 men, I said. Recorder's running. Ruiz told me to stay visible and not engage. He arrived 12 minutes later with a security guard whose posture said he liked rules more than people. They spoke to the manager. A knock. The door opened. Eli emerged mid-charm. Misunderstanding. He said to no one and everyone, as if the word were a magic trick with witnesses. Ruiz stepped in and introduced himself. This co-working space is cooperating with an ongoing fraud inquiry, he said. We'll need room booking records and camera coverage. Eli's smile never broke. It just shifted shape. You can't prove anything, he said to me low. The victims won't come forward. Ruiz answered for me. They already have. Eli's eyes flashed surprise, a real emotion slipping on stage without makeup. The manager printed a list of bookings under a rotating set of names that shared 2 initials. E.M. The payment method was cash or prepaid card, receipts photographed on a cheap printer. Ruiz showed me a page of aliases he'd brought. Markham, Mercer, March. Close enough to pass on a busy Friday, he said. The receptionist whispered that Eli always asked for the room farthest from the front desk on Fridays between 3 and 6, consulting hours that smelled like citrus cleaner and apologies. We sat with one of the victims on speaker, an older woman who sounded exhausted. He promised my bathroom remodel would start after the second transfer, she said. Then he stopped answering, except for a text from a different number saying delay. Her voice steadied. I kept the texts and his voice on my answering machine. The man on speaker 2, Mr. O'Reilly, had the same story in a different zip code. A pattern is a confession that learned to spell. Ruiz turned to me. This isn't an affair with a lie attached, he said. It's a confidence scheme with romance as the lead-in or the cover. My stomach dropped, not because I hadn't suspected, but because naming a monster makes it breathe. He touched the recorder on the table like a talisman. We'll need you to hold your nerve, Nora. Ruiz stared at me and said, do not confront him alone. Plans give fear a to-do list. I opened a new binder at the kitchen table and labeled tabs. Aliases, payments, spaces, victims, legal. Ruiz drafted a concise letter on the credit union's letterhead inviting E. Mercer to a refinance consult, bait wrapped in something he wanted. We scheduled it for Wednesday at 10, Morales from the bank's fraud unit on deck, 2 victims ready to join by phone, and the manager prepared to email room logs if subpoenaed. Daniel volunteered to sit in the waiting area, arms crossed and heart open. Tasha handled digital hygiene like a pit boss. New email for evidence, she said. 2-factor auth on everything. Passwords in a vault you can nuke from orbit. We froze my credit and placed fraud alerts on the bureaus with phrasing Ruiz dictated. Potential ongoing impersonation. Do not open new lines without in-person verification. I filed an FTC identity theft report, not because my identity had been used yet, but because proximity is a contagion. At work, I moved like a metronome, steady, measurable, careful. Love wanted to write a poem. Evidence wanted a spreadsheet. I chose the spreadsheet. Eli tried new tactics. Texts about fresh starts. A photo of us from last Christmas labeled "We can be this again." And finally a long message about how Daniel was turning me against him, which is what manipulators say when bystanders don't clap. I didn't respond. Silence is a language too. The night before the meeting, I packed the binder, the recorder, and a calm I mostly faked. Ruiz called to rehearse. "If he escalates," he said, "let me take lead. Your job is to witness and to not agree to anything." I nodded. Alone in the garage where we keep the holiday bins and the ladder that always feels a little too tall. Daniel texted, "Proud of you. Bring gum. Dry mouths lie easier." Tasha sent a selfie in a hoodie that read "Trust, but verify." At midnight, the prepaid phone buzzed where Ruiz had cloned it. Message from Mason. "After tomorrow, new drop. Don't be late." The ugliness of his confidence steadied me more than pep talks. Morning would bring a room with glass walls and good lighting. Evidence loves good lighting. Lie squint. Eli texted first, "Call off Ruiz, or I'll ruin you publicly." The credit union conference room smelled like paper and air conditioning. Neutral, official, unromantic. Morales arranged a laptop, speakerphone, and small projector with the professionalism of a stagehand. Daniel took a seat near the door, a human stop-loss. Eli arrived exactly on time in a shirt he saved for charm offensives. "Refi Consult," he said, smiling at Morales as if money were a love language he spoke fluently. Ruiz introduced himself again and read the consent blurb to record. Eli nodded, eyes on me like a cat at a bird bath. Morales began with neutral slides, account histories, balances, a list of inquiries that didn't match our household. Then he clicked to a screen of room bookings and cash receipts from the co-working space. Dates aligned with deposits into a prepaid card. Eli's smile held. "Coincidence," he said. "I book rooms for friends." Morales didn't react. He advanced to a slide with the storage unit postcard and the clerk's notation. Eli's jaw tightened a degree. "Anyone can write a name," he said. Ruiz tapped the table. "Voice prints are better than handwriting." We played the victim's voicemail through the speaker. Eli promising start dates after a transfer, and then a short clip from my doorbell camera. "Mr. Markham, the delivery guy says." Eli responds in his own tone, shaped by 1,000 repetitions of pretending. Eli kept still until the second victim joined by phone and said quietly, "Your voice is the same in every city." He stood, chair legs scraping. "You people are colluding," he snapped. "She hates me because she's small." Daniel rose. "Careful," he said in a voice that didn't need volume. Morales spoke into a house mic. "Mr. Mercer, please sit." Eli sat. He pivoted to me, dropping charm for contempt. "If you love me, delete this," he said, almost tender. Tasha had warned me, love bomb, then gaslight, then smear. "I loved who you said you were," I replied softly. "I'm here with who you are." Eli's eyes cooled. "Then I'll fix it my way," he said, reaching for his phone like a trigger. Daniel's eyes shifted when Eli produced photos that could bury me. Eli slid his phone across the table, screen glowing with a folder labeled Nora Proof. Thumbnails showed cropped screenshots, messages lifted from my work chats, emails stripped of context, even a photo of me outside the storage unit. "She's unstable," he said smoothly. "Obsessed. Stalking me. Ask her employer how she snoops files." My throat went dry, but Ruiz leaned in like he'd been waiting for this play. "Classic deflection," he said calmly. "Mr. Mercer, or Markham, or whichever name you prefer, we subpoenaed your storage unit this morning." Morales clicked the projector, and images filled the wall. Contracts, forged signatures, and the manila envelope marked keys. Eli's mask cracked. One blinked too long, a flash of panic like a match. Daniel folded his arms, silent granite. The victims on the speakerphone gasped audibly when their contracts appeared on screen with Eli's handwriting across the margins. One whispered, "That's him." Ruiz tapped the recorder. "Voice print matches 92%. Your denials are part of the record now." Eli shot me a glare sharp enough to cut. "You think they'll believe you over me? I'm charming. You're forgettable." I remembered Tasha's words, "Trust, but verify." I pulled out my binder and laid down the annotated lease with the forged notary stamp, time-stamped IP headers from the co-working space, and photos of the prepaid phone's messages. Forgettable people keep receipts, I said. Morales adjusted his glasses. We'll forward this packet to law enforcement. We recommend you contact counsel immediately. Eli's bravado wavered. Then he sneered. All this for some missed jobs? You'll destroy your own life with gossip. Ruiz didn't blink. Fraud, wire deception, identity misuse. That's not gossip, that's statute. Eli slammed his chair back and stormed for the door, but Daniel blocked him with a calm step. Morales announced, meeting adjourned. Copy secured. Chain of custody intact. I exhaled for the first time in hours, but relief carried thorns. Eli turned at the doorway, voice low and venomous. If I go down, I'll drag her down too. His eyes pinned me, promising a private war beyond conference walls. And with that, Eli vanished into the parking lot, pursued by silence heavier than handcuffs. Silence didn't last long. By evening, my phone buzzed with notifications from neighbors. Someone had posted a rant in the local forum. Beware Nora. She spies on patients and makes fake claims about her partner. Screenshots of cropped emails attached. Eli had moved fast. Daniel called furious. Ignore it. Truth's heavier than rumor. But I knew reputations bruise quicker than they heal. The next morning, Investigator Ruiz called. Police seized Unit 314 this morning, he said. Ledger books, prepaid cards, contracts, all under alias accounts. He can't spin this one. Relief tangled with dread. Victims began coordinating, their stories echoing each other with eerie precision. Deposits made, jobs never started, then silence. Some added romance twists, promises of partnership, dinners that turned into requests for bridge money. My stomach turned as I realized I'd been both cover and alibi. At the courthouse annex, Ruiz presented the case to a magistrate. Photos, receipts, recordings, doorbell clip. When the clerk played the voicemail of Eli promising after the transfer, his own voice betrayed him louder than any witness. The magistrate signed a temporary restraining order and set a preliminary hearing. You've done the hard part, Ruiz told me. Now let the system chew. But fallout isn't tidy. At work, whispers followed me. Was I complicit or just naive? My supervisor asked gently if I needed time off. Patience smiled but looked twice. Tasha hugged me hard in the parking lot. You're not what he painted, she said. But you'll need to repaint yourself, one stroke at a time. That night, I opened the prepaid phone's last unsent draft. Friday, final collection, Nora won't interfere. My name, written like a variable in his scam equation. I stared until letters blurred. I was never his partner. I was his cover story, tidy and believable. I folded the binder shut, but grief pressed in anyway, heavier than relief. Then Daniel texted a photo of Eli being escorted into a cruiser, captioned with 2 words, "It's over." I wanted to believe him. But 3 days later, a plain envelope arrived addressed to me in Eli's handwriting. The envelope contained a single sheet of paper, no greeting, no signature, just, "You think this ends with me in a cell? Ask yourself who helped me open those accounts." My hands trembled, but I forced myself to scan the page twice. It was bait, designed to seed doubt in the very soil I'd tried to clear. Daniel read it and spat. Classic con. Spread suspicion so you're never the only villain. Ruiz confirmed later. He's trying to muddy waters. Common tactic before arraignment. Still, the words clung like smoke. The police report grew into a case file. Connie from the co-working desk testified to his Friday bookings. Victims filed coordinated complaints, weaving a net wide enough to catch even Eli's aliases. The credit union froze disputed transfers. Yet while evidence climbed, so did gossip. A neighbor muttered at the mailbox, "Guess you didn't know your own man." At work, one patient's husband whispered, "She probably snoops charts too." I held my chin steady and let my accuracy speak louder than rumors. But every smile I forced was a stitch holding me together. Tasha stayed my anchor. She texted nightly, "Drink water. Sleep. Don't let him rent more space in your head." Daniel started coming to Sunday dinner again, bringing casseroles like barricades. "Family's louder than whispers," he said, serving me a plate. For the first time in months, I believed him. Still, fallout cost me. I cut back hours. Exhaustion pressed like a weight vest. Nights I dreamt of storage units. Endless doors rolling up to reveal my name scribbled on folders. Ruiz reassured me. Court date is set. His aliases are burned. Paper trails don't lie. I nodded, but relief felt fragile, like glass in unsteady hands. Then, one evening, as I sorted mail, I found a small torn slip wedged inside our box. Handwritten, in a scrawl I knew too well, "You haven't seen the last account." And in that moment, I realized the damage might outlive the arrest. Healing is less a finish line than a calendar you survive one page at a time. Therapy taught me that. You can't control the smear, my counselor said, only your boundaries. So I wrote them down. Shared vault for passwords, no joint accounts without Daniel's review, fraud alerts refreshed every 90 days. I framed them on the fridge, not as punishment, but as survival guidelines. Tasha and I held weekly coffee check-ins where we swapped not just gossip but screenshots, evidence parties. We joked. Daniel taught me how to freeze credit for free, then unfreeze it for a day when needed. I even showed neighbors at a block meeting how to check their own reports. Pain became practice. Practice became armor. Jake, the young clerk from the credit union, thanked me once outside court. "My mom almost fell for one of those jobs," he said. "Your case scared her straight." That gave me a fragile pride, the kind that glows faint but steady. Eli sat through hearings in press shirts, sometimes smirking at me across the aisle, sometimes glaring. But each time, Ruiz placed another document in the record: leases, texts, recorded calls. Paper never flinched the way I did. One by one, victims stood up, voices shaking but resolute. "He promised," they said. "He lied," they finished. Truth assembled itself like a quilt. At home, silence finally felt like rest, not dread. I learned to cook alone without scanning doorways. I learned to sleep through the night without my phone buzzing with threats. The day the judge signed the restitution order, I walked out of the courthouse and felt air fill my lungs as if for the first time. Yet healing meant accepting scars. I still jump when mail arrives without a return address. I still keep the binder, even after Ruiz said I could shred it. Some ghosts are worth archiving. Then one morning, I woke to an empty kitchen and realized I was free. Freedom tasted simple. Sunlight across the counter, coffee mug warm in my hands, keys on the table with no aliases attached. Eli had been a partner in name only. I finally had my name back unblemished. Daniel hugged me that weekend and whispered, "You chose truth over comfort. That's harder, but it lasts longer." Tasha raised her glass at dinner. To receipts, to resilience, to Nora reclaiming herself. We laughed, tired laughter but real. What I learned is this: love without verification can turn into leverage against you. Trust isn't blind, it's evidence shared willingly. If someone hides phones, names, or addresses, don't excuse it as privacy. Ask, document, and if answers squirm, believe the squirm. For anyone listening, once a year, pull all 3 credit reports. Freeze them if you can. Google your own name in quotes and see what shadows crawl out. Don't be afraid of seeming paranoid. Fear belongs to those who steal, not those who protect. I still keep the lockbox binder on a shelf, not as a shrine to betrayal, but as a reminder that evidence is dignity when words fail. And when neighbors whisper, I smile and wave. Their gossip isn't my biography. My biography is written in receipts, in resilience, and in the morning light that finally feels like mine. One hopeful image stays with me: sunlight spilling into a kitchen finally cleared of lies. One practical takeaway for you: verify the names of those closest to you before trust becomes a contract. Because the harshest heartbreak comes not from strangers, but from partners you never really knew.